everybody. Welcome to Campus Comics Cast, coming to you from Carbondale, Illinois, with special guests from the Campus Comics crew. And now, here's your host, the man with the previews in hand, Mike No.
Hello and welcome to this bonus edition of Campus Comics Cast. Yes, we're so good, we are back for more. Anyway, we're just going to talk a little bit about a few extra things tonight that hopefully you'll be interested in. And I guess before going in to all this, we're still here inside Campus Comics. And I'm Mike No, here of Campus Comics, and I'm sitting here with
Scott Reed
and Dan Brown.
And one of the things we want to talk about, and we'll go ahead and say it outright, is spoiler alert. We're going to be talking first up about Black Panther. We have actually all seen it at this point. Ooh. I think this is the first time a Marvel movie I saw on opening weekend.
Oh, really?
It's the first time I ever did that. So, and I was glad I did.
Yes.
But
how hard is it avoiding spoilers in the comic shop opening weekend?
Oh, yeah, I know. That's what it really made me say, I need to do this more often because you just have to either do that or resign yourself. It's going to get spoiled.
Yeah.
You know, because you can't like go off on people in a comic book shop.
Right.
Don't talk about that movie. That's kind of on me if I haven't seen it. You know, the way I view it. So, overall opinions, or do we just want to jump into our own personal tirades, or what?
It's whatever everybody wants to do format-wise. So,
Okay.
I mean, lackluster.
Don't even go there.
Probably the worst movie they've made.
Oh my God!
Right.
All right.
Yeah.
then.
No,
Okay.
I think we're with the public on this
Yes.
one.
Mm-hmm.
Right. This has just been a great movie.
Yes. This is absolutely probably my second favorite of all the Marvel movies. Winter Soldier is still the standard for the Marvel Cinematic, but this was really, really close. So I was really pleased with how well this movie ended up.
We're surprised.
I was concerned that I had overhyped it because to me a lot of the Marvel movies lately had been so. They were just there. They were good, but they were just like popcorn movies. It's
Right.
Like they're just there purely for the entertainment value. Mm-hmm. And I like those that have a little bit more serious of a theme to them. And I really enjoyed Black Panther. My big gripe, all the Marvel movies lately has been how much forced humor there has been in all of them. Yes. And while there was some moments of that, it was it wasn't forced, and it was felt like natural between like a brother and a sister.
Yes.
and some of those types of situations. So the humor was so much fit this movie much better than what some of the stuff had been in some of the previous
And it was
movies.
inherent to the scenes too. It didn't seem like
Exactly.
they were shoehorning jokes in, you know.
Or you're filming something after the scene. It's like, let's just add that punchline in there.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So it was outstanding. So.
Right. Yeah. I would totally agree with that. I'd probably, I don't know, I still have a soft spot for the first Iron Man, you know, just because it's a solid, good movie, and it started the whole thing, you know, and it's just like, it was like, oh, wow, they did this right. So, I mean, but it's probably, I would put it probably my third, you know, but, you know, after Winter Soldier, I'm with you on that as far as just being the best movie overall, and then Iron Man, and then Black Panther, you know, I mean, at this point, I think we're all expecting these movies to be good.
Oh,
just
for
how
sure.
good are they going to be? You know, and this one really exceeded my expectations in every way. I mean, it's just the casting was amazing. You know, I really liked it. The story was great. Minor quibbles, but we'll get into those later. But I mean, overall, very solid. You know, very solid.
Yeah, overall, great movie. I think, you know, Marvel had some success right out of the gate with Iron Man. I think they set their bar pretty high. They just had good movie, and it kept being like, okay, which is going to be the one that bombs? Which one's going to be the one that's really bad? I think I quit asking that around Guardians of the Galaxy. It's like, if you can make a great Guardians of the Galaxy movie, what aren't you going to do? You know? So, again, I'm not necessarily just a show for Marvel. I'm a DC guy. I have different standards for Marvel movies, I think. But it's like, I haven't really been disappointed in any of these. You know, we're creeping in on like 20-some movies, right?
Maybe Iron Man 2.
I really like Iron Man 2.
Sam Rockwell helps that movie
Oh,
so much,
yeah.
you know?
I like that. It's the reason I like a lot of second movies is we've got the origin out of the way. We can just go straight to the action. You know, for the most part, comic books are second act anyway. You know, you've got the first that they want to retell all the time, and we never get a third act really. for the most part.
Right. So I kind of liked that really about Black Panther, and it also worked in Spider-Man Homecoming, where you get the introduction of the character in a movie like with those both came in Civil War. Yep. And so then by the time you get to their solo movie, it's not following the DC formula, where it's spinning out, but you're familiar with these characters, so you kind of get that a little bit out of the way at the beginning, the origin story.
Yeah,
I really like that.
I feel like they did kind of backtrack on some of that with Black Panther. I feel like they went over some of the same ground that they did in Civil War. I'd have to watch them back to back to, really see if there's anything that like contradicts or.
I feel like it kind of just flowed straight from. You could almost sit down and watch Civil War, and then it's like that's the next week.
And that's the thing too. The Marvel Studios movies don't have. They've got a different timeline, right, than what they're being released in.
I don't know.
I think like Guardians 2 takes place like a few years, I think, after Guardians 1 because of Groot is like a little older, but like other movies take place like 4 months after something else. Yep. I think there's a little bit.
Huh. I hadn't really thought about it.
It's not like a real time timeline, I don't think. I think if you go back and really kind of nitpick at it, and I'm sure, this is all over online. You can Google this in 5 seconds, I'm sure. But I don't think the timeline is the movie in the order that the movies are being released in.
So I would have assumed it was in the order that they were being released.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Right.
I'll go and get I have 2 negative things to say about Black Panther, and one of them is not specific to the movie The Black Panther. Mm-hmm. I despise that they have changed the Marvel Studios images away from comic book images to images for the movies instead of the comics. It's like they're forgetting where they all come.
You know why that is, though?
Well,
because Feige broke off. He reports to Disney now, not Marvel.
Not Marvel.
Marvel Studios is not a part of Marvel. So they don't have that brain trust that from Marvel Comics anymore they use either. They ditched all that. Feige reports directly to Disney, so I'm sure that change of the logo is a reflection of that.
And that happened a few films ago. I don't remember when that first actually happened. And then my second complaint is the big climatic fight between Killmonger and Black Panther. It felt very CGI'd. A lot of that fight it almost was like watching a cartoon.
Yeah.
I felt like they overdid that. Some of the earlier fight scenes where they're not in costume are a lot better than those CGI fight scenes.
The CGI was surprisingly subpar, and especially specifically in that final battle scene. Some of that stuff was not good.
Yeah, when they're falling and fighting, that was just terrible.
It was awful.
I mean, do you think it was rushed, or do you think this is a first time? Well, not a first time director, but first time doing something on this scale for Ryan Coogler?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know either.
I don't know. It just didn't seem like it was rushed. I just don't. It just wasn't well executed.
Because it seems like Marvel's got a pretty good machine going at this point.
Yeah,
you would think somebody would have stopped the train and said, "Hey, let's tweak this a little bit."
I wonder if it has something to do with like just the costumes themselves, not having, since they're all black, not having something to define lines and stuff.
Yeah,
maybe.
Well, I feel like that was kind of the point of the purple versus gold Black Panther suits. We kind of got there towards the end.
Yeah. And that's again the casting. Chadwick Boseman as T'Challa and Black Panther, amazing. Letitia Wright as Shuri was a breath of fresh air. And Jordan was just phenomenal.
Oh yeah, terrific.
He was amazing. Probably, if we're gonna rank things, he's in my top 3 Marvel MCU villains.
Oh, absolutely.
Because and it would be like D'Onofrio's Fisk if you count the Netflix stuff, and Keaton's Vulture, amazing.
Was actually very good.
And then Jordan's Killmonger, just like he understood the motivation. He had a point. Those are the best villains when you understand why they're doing what they're doing. Personally, like what Scott was saying about the final battle, I would have preferred they left him out of the suit. I would rather see, because one of the things that kind of irks me about Marvel is the heroes fighting like-powered villains. You got I understand it, but Ant-Man, Yellow Jacket,
Iron Man, Ironmonger,
Doctor Strange versus
I definitely agree with that criticism. I feel like you kind of got that beforehand, though, in their sort of trial, sort of ceremony fight where they were stripped down. They were just fighting with like basic weapons and stuff. So I feel like you probably don't want that repeated at your big,
but maybe if it hadn't,
even
Killmonger's suit hadn't have been cat themed,
right?
Maybe that would, you know what I mean? It's just like
Well, I thought, they showed, since Shuri had the couple of those suits, and then we know T'Challa had one, so where did he get the other one? Well, he took the one that was left.
Right.
So,
yeah.
at least I thought that was established in the movie. So,
They
Right.
definitely set that up. But again, it's like it definitely would be appropriate for him to have like a more military themed
Yes.
kind of outfit or arsenal or something like that too, just with his background they established.
Right. But I mean, again, minor nitpicks, I mean, again,
Yeah.
did he really have to die? Right.
Such a good line at the end.
Yeah.
Baller last line for a villain. But yeah, I just want more Michael B. Jordan in these movies.
it's a shame that they killed off that character, but it was so well done in the movie that I think we would have been disappointed if they would have done something else with it. I don't think it would have had the impact. The movie would not have had quite the impact.
Yeah,
Right.
I want my cake and I want to eat it too,
Yeah.
Scott. That's all there is to it. He was so good. Now we would have, both Human Torches in the MCU now. Too, so,
There you go.
that would
that's
be nice.
right.
But yeah,
There you go.
again, just minor nitpicky things. My kind of biggest complaint about the movie was with the soundtrack. The score is fine. I liked it. It was good. They just made such a big deal about Kendrick Lamar's doing the soundtrack. What it amounts to is a song over the end credits, and then
Which was a great song.
Yeah, it's a good song.
Great song.
But again, it was the inspired by soundtrack that we got. Like, this is a 90s superhero movie. I was really hoping for something more in the way of Guardians of the Galaxy, or the way some of the other Marvel titles have, and Thor Ragnarok especially. It was just the way they kind of tied the music in throughout the movie. I was really expecting a more rap, hip hop kind of soundtrack to this movie about black empowerment thing. So I feel like there's probably a more successful way of doing that. Again, the score is fine, but don't tell me one thing and then give me something else.
Right.
And where are all the white people at, right? Right, guys?
Well, I was glad they didn't go for like all the popular hit music, because then it would have been like they were just trying to emulate one of the other films. So
Right.
I'm glad they went back to the traditional score, and I thought it worked very, very well.
Yeah, and I really liked the production design of the whole movie.
Yes.
Wakanda was just gorgeous, and everything really that it should have been. It was really great. I liked, again, I'm kind of jumping around here, but I loved, how they brought out, T'Chaka's sins. T'Challa's, and it's just like, again, it plays to the villain's motivation.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, it was just so well done the way they did that, and it's just, I don't know, it's really hard to be too critical of this movie.
And apparently, I heard this. I can't remember where I heard this, but T'Chaka's younger version was played by a relative of his. And,
really?
Forrest Whitaker's character, the younger version of him, was played by a nephew or cousin or
okay.
something.
Oh, that's very cool.
Yeah, I hadn't heard that. That's cool.
Yeah, now I didn't confirm that. It's something that I heard. So
Right. I do want to see more M'Baku, and I heard he plays into Infinity War somewhere.
Oh, really?
The Man-Ape character,
Man-Ape,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a Marvel character, by the way. That's not any aspersions.
Yeah,
being cast by
no, not at all.
crew of this
That's the
podcast.
comic book
That is
version
a
of it.
comic book character, and this is way cooler than any version of that
absolutely.
character
Yes.
they've done.
Yeah, but yeah, he was another really bright spot for me.
Yeah.
Was that
Yes.
character so well done, and just a lot of fun. I just really enjoyed him in that part.
there is not a character in that movie that I would point at and say that character is bad. I mean, every single character in that, and I even like that. I'm glad they made the changes to Everett Ross's character that they did, because in the comics he's basically kind of a buffoon. And he roller skates and just does stupid stuff all the time. So I actually like that I thought, well, he's going to be the comic relief, and this is where they're going to go for all the dumb one-liners and
Right.
stuff. And I was actually
Steered away
glad to
from
see,
that.
they actually matured that character.
And when I first heard he was going to be in it, I actually felt like, oh, this really just kind of seems like a contractual obligation to Martin, getting one of his
Right.
appearances in. But I really liked what they did with him. I
Yeah.
thought it wasn't necessary, but I thought it was well done.
He so much of that. I mean, the character is key to the Black Panther mythos now, because
Okay.
ever since the Christopher Priest run, he's just been directly tied with Black Panther, and a lot of this movie came from the Christopher Priest run, and some of it from Don McGregor. So yeah, he's there, and he should be there as part of
Gotcha.
this movie. So
Gotcha. Okay.
in the comics, he's like how I've had it explained to me is he's the white guy's view into the Black Panther's world.
Okay.
Is how he's described. But yeah, I thought he was used very effectively in the movie. So.
One thing I did notice, just kind of a little side note here, I didn't realize, I was telling you the only episode of Netflix series, anthology series Black Mirror,
right?
Was that final?
Did
Was
you
the finale?
Watch it?
I
Okay,
did.
I didn't want to bring that up because I thought you hadn't seen it.
I watched that last episode of season 4, but that's Letitia Wright plays the key role in that. And wow,
There's and I don't know the actor's name, but there's another actor. He was in the episode where they're like all auditioning for something.
He was in Get Out. Daniel Kaluuya, or
but he was in an episode of.
Man, we can't pronounce comic book creator names. We're not going to get actor names right on this podcast.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But yeah, and he played the head of security basically for Wakanda's borders.
Yes,
in the Black Panther movie too. Yeah, he was great.
Where was this elite guard of female warriors when T'Chaka was killed?
They were there in scenes in Civil War. They just didn't really talk about them in Civil War. I think it would have been too much to introduce. I mean, there are moments where you see, like there's a scene where isn't there a scene where Black Widow goes face to face with one of them, and T'Challa says he'd like to talking about a fight, and he'd like to see that. Am I misremembering that scene?
I feel like they kind of dropped the ball. That was my point.
The door. They were there. They just never referred to them as the Dora Milaje.
Yeah,
so I'm pretty sure that they were there. I was really happy to see in the end credits that Don McGregor and Christopher Priest were actually credited.
It seems like most superhero movies are getting pretty good about that.
Really
There's been some pretty links of thanks to comic book creators on the Marvel and DC side.
Yep. Now, I didn't understand why Jonathan Hickman maybe got the plug as a creator for Black Panther. I didn't really see that one, but somebody told me maybe from like New Avengers or something. But it didn't seem like it didn't seem like that warranted. It's like now they're almost going too far the other way, like over crediting people. They don't want to make anybody mad. So
interesting. But overall, anything else anybody wants to say about Black Panther?
I've just been going slow on my notes. I got all kinds of things to say
Okay,
about it.
go.
Okay, all right. Were you guys surprised how early they killed off Claw?
I was
a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, it was important for the story to move the story forward, but I actually expected he might show up again in the future.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking too.
Yeah. Because especially the way he was chewing up scenery, he was a lot. When that one scene where he's in the interrogation room, he just starts singing.
Yeah,
so it was a great.
I really like. Yeah, and we get to see Andy Serkis's face for a change.
Yes.
Yeah, instead of being CGI.
Yeah, mo-capped. Yeah, I was just wondering. My only thing was like he kind of died off screen, if I remember. You see him get shot, but the kill shot is off screen. Would they really go like his body's composed of pure sound, so he's not really dead? You know what I mean, kind of thing. If they want to bring,
I feel like
back.
That's really stretching it for the Marvel movies.
Yeah.
But who knows? We could always do a cyborg kind of thing with him, maybe.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I guess there is some way they could always, bring him back or whatever. So
I mean, they fake kill so many characters already in these movies. Why not?
The first I've seen this movie twice now, and the first time I saw it, the couple of times where the guy with the very large lip plate, I felt like I had a very difficult time understanding him. It didn't seem as bad the second time, but for some reason the first time, whenever he was talking, it was like, wow, that was a little bit better. But some things that the soundtrack wasn't great the first time through, but the second time. It did. I didn't. I thought it was a lot better.
You just heard it more the second time, like you paid more attention to the story first time around.
Yeah, I think maybe that's what it was. So sometimes it felt like it was a very jarring, but the second time I didn't feel like I was jarred by the soundtrack as much. What else? I liked the first time through they had the comment about you brought me another white boy to fix. And then in the end credit scene, where we get Bucky, so we can assume that Bucky's no longer going to have the mind control for Infinity War.
Right.
So, and it looks like he may be leading some Wakandans in Infinity War as well.
Yeah, I mean they call him White Wolf.
White Wolf.
And and I guess that's what they're going to refer to him now in the MCU as.
Yeah.
So. I mean, not following the comic version of who White Wolf was.
But they're bringing in that element. They're bringing in that element as well. they had the 2 after credit scenes. So if you're counting after credit scene, we got the one with T'Challa before the United Nations. Basically, what can a farming nation bring to us?
Right.
And he kind of smiles. And there was a second scene between Bucky and Shuri. So we had that as well.
Back to that United Nations scene. I believe it was Ryan Coogler, the director, was commenting on the line about barriers. That apparently was written before the 2016 election.
Okay.
He said that was written during the Obama administration. It just resonates more now, he said.
Gotcha.
So not necessarily that kind of commentary at the time.
And maybe that's all I got. Maybe I've hit on all these things
Tick all your notes
already.
more
Yeah,
than
I
that.
just making sure I didn't want to leave anything out. But,
What was the Stanley cameo in this? I was trying to think of this earlier today, and I couldn't remember.
the gambling where he picks up the chips that T'Challa leaves behind.
In the bar scene.
In the bar,
Yeah.
So T'Challa takes a bet and then walks off whenever Claw comes in, and
Right.
he's like, "I'll
right.
take those." And
I really like that scene, by the way.
Yes.
That scene, and
It really felt like the casino scene in Skyfall.
exactly.
Yeah,
I said there was so bondish that scene was,
Yeah.
just with the connection and everything. And that I really like that scene.
and Killmonger was definitely a highlight of this movie. We haven't, and like Killmonger, they basically dramatically changed his origin story from the comics, but absolutely it fit with this movie, and I really, really like that.
Yeah, Michael B. Jordan just killed it in
Yes,
that
he
role,
did.
and I wish he was still around.
Yeah,
in this movie, right? I just really want more of that character, and for some reason too, it seems like. As far as like the merchandise go, all the toys I've seen are Killmonger in the Black Panther suit. I really want just Killmonger with the African mask and the hair off to the side. I really want a toy of that.
I know, because the Hot Toys, the only thing in its build is Killmonger, and you go and it's just him in the
Black Panther suit.
Panther
Right.
suit or
I'm surprised,
Jaguar or
like,
whatever people
Marvel
call
Select
it.
or someone isn't picking that up and doing a version.
Maybe
I've seen guys wearing their hair like that now.
Yeah.
Back to wrestling. Kofi Kingston of the New Day is kind of putting his hair out to the side like that now. So people are definitely taking note of that look.
Right. And I wouldn't think it'd be likeness rights problems. You know what I mean? Because it seems like that's part of what you'd sign the dotted line for with Marvel anyway.
Yeah.
There's a Shuri action figure now of like. It's a smaller figure, so I'm not sure how good the likeness is to that actress. But like, you can get a figure of that. Why can't I get a Killmonger
figure?
Right.
like
Yeah.
I want?
True.
But it seems like that's kind of been a thing with the movie in general, isn't it? It's just the lack of
Yeah,
merchandise.
it's surprising. Yeah, I mean, I've had several people coming in looking for Black Panther stuff, and it seemed like they've offered it, but they offered it concurrent with the release of the movie, not prior. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So it's just like maybe it'll be out by the time the Blu-ray's out, or something like that. It's available digitally or something like that, but. So
it seems
hopefully,
like half the point to a comic book movie is to get people in the stores to pick up the comics.
And that's happened how often?
But it would be happening here though.
Yep.
If we had the merchandise for them.
definitely had people.
And I guess we didn't even mention the fact that it's already gone over $1 billion.
$1 billion on
The
a Black
B,
Panther movie.
Yeah.
Who would have?
Yeah,
thought that?
for sure.
Well, there was a comment. Apparently, when Marvel sold the first time Marvel got sold, Jack Kirby apparently was quoted as like were sold for like maybe like $2 million or something like that, and Jack Kirby was quoted as saying Ant-Man is worth that much money, and so he was proven correct now many times over.
Yes.
So
who would have thought it? But man, no. So
ratings.
I would give it a very fine plus.
Oh, near mint.
Near.
I'm gonna go near mint with this.
Yeah.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, so we got
my side, soundtrack grievances aside, it's like this is a great movie. Just as an experience overall.
Gotcha.
Winter Soldier near mint plus, Black Panther near mint.
We've got a black superhero movie that's worth watching.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not the first one they've made, but it's definitely the best.
Oh, yeah.
We're definitely seeing more people from the black community coming in the store.
Yeah, for sure.
Comic books in general is a white guy's club for the most part still in 2018, so any chance to branch out and diversify is always good.
Absolutely. Okay, so unanimous on that, you guys.
They have announced a sequel.
They had
Surprise,
today,
surprise,
so
surprise.
Who would have thought that was
surprise.
coming?
Really?
But
$1 billion movie. They want to keep
Yeah,
that going.
we will be getting another one.
Go figure.
But you'll see him again in Infinity War.
Yes, you
so.
will. Yeah, you see everybody again, and some people for the first time. But all right. Well,
Did you guys see that giant photo Marvel Studios did with all their actors a few weeks ago?
No.
They brought, I guess it was during filming of Infinity War, and I don't know if it was a particular day or what, but they had everybody together and put them on the bleachers for a big class photo.
Oh wow!
I think there's a video on YouTube kind of talking about them, setting up that picture and everything, but it's pretty cool. Pretty sure Kurt Russell was there.
Oh really?
So I don't know how that works out, if he just happened to be around that day or if he's actually in something.
Right. Again,
So
we're talking the Infinity and the
Yeah,
all the
exactly.
Infinity
Flashback
gems,
flashback scene, maybe?
Could
be. Okay.
Yep. Previous. Huh. All right. Well, a lot. It's a good time to be into this stuff, as we said many times. Just these are things you wanted to see as a kid, but kind of glad it didn't happen because the effects are so much more there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is just a golden age.
I
For
can't.
this stuff.
Well, back in the '90s, they were trying to make a Black Panther movie with Wesley Snipes.
Right. Yep. Always.
We would look back, like if we had got that and now we had this, we'd be like, oh, who cares about Wesley Snipes' Black Panther? Chadwick Boseman's a Black Panther now, We just didn't get that
Right.
beforehand.
Very
You
true.
know, especially considering some of Marvel's old movie efforts, which everyone seems to have forgotten with their
yes.
revisionist history.
Yeah. Because it's always been great, right?
Right.
Oh my! All right, so we go with Black Panther.
I think so.
All right, so pretty unanimous there. Can't recommend the movie high enough. So haven't seen it, shame on you. Go see it.
We'll see it.
Yep. I guess something else we want to do tonight is just talk a little bit about this. If you have not heard, this is the 80th anniversary of the character Superman, and it's pretty much the character that started it all. Not the first, superhuman character, not the first character in costume, but the kind of the first time that was brought together.
Definitely the first
Into
superhero.
into that thing, so it's pretty big thing to celebrate. It was a start of a genre, for sure. So we're just going to take a few minutes here to talk about. Each of us is going to talk about a specific Superman story that we enjoyed. May not remember everything perfectly, but it's mostly a recommendation for you to check out and just get a feel. And there's, like I said, 80 years of stories to talk about with this character. So. And there's a lot of different stories going on. So, Dan, you want to start with yours? Or?
I can. The story I wanted to talk about is from 1990. It is Day of the Krypton Man. And this is from kind of what I feel is sort of a forgotten era of Superman, where it's post-John Byrne's run, but before the death of Superman. And it's kind of when Superman became a weekly book, where we had 3 titles that all kind of ran together for the most part, where it was like you read Adventures one week, Action the next, Superman the next. And it's all one large story,
Actually,
basically.
4, because wasn't Superman Man of Steel out as well?
Man of Steel did come out. What I'm talking about, though, right now, the specific story I'm talking about came out right before Man of Steel debuted.
Okay.
But, yeah, Man of Steel did tie into that, too, once they premiered that book.
Okay.
So, the Day of Krypton Man story, which, as far as I can tell, has never been collected for some reason, but I really like it, takes place after the Exile story where Superman went off to space, and this is when he's come back to Earth. And this story ran over. There was a prologue in Action Comics number 650, which 1000's about to come out, so that's how long ago this was. Superman 41, Adventures 464, Action 651, Superman 42, Adventures 465, and then wrapped up in Action 652. For the record, these are all Volume 1 of these books. Well, Volume 2 for Superman, I guess, technically.
Yeah.
But this is Superman coming back to Earth, and he is followed back by Draga, the gladiator he beat in Mongol's War World during that storyline. Lobo shows up to fight Superman. Maxima is in here, who was the outer space queen who wanted Superman for her mate. There's a lot going on in this story. It's also about Superman coming into contact with the Eradicator device, which wants to retain Krypton in its purest form. So it sees what Kal-El Superman has become as almost an aberration. So it starts sort of brainwashing Superman into becoming more Kryptonian, to the point where he starts wearing a more Kryptonian suit, which is based more on the John Byrne version of Krypton. So it's sort of a modified black and red suit from John Byrne's Krypton. And the story, it really is sort of about Superman kind of turning away from his humanity and becoming more alien and more cold. And I believe he almost kills Mongol on the moon at one point. They've teleported up there, and he has a chunk of the Statue of Liberty he's going to drive into him. It goes pretty far with the story. And it's just a good time. There's a lot going on. Ultimately, it's about how Superman is, human. That's a very important part of him. Clark Kent is Superman. It's not, the Batman thing of Bruce Wayne is the mask. It is Clark Kent is Superman. And so, there's spoilers. There's sort of a big blowout with the Eradicator at the Fortress of Solitude at the end of the story. And it wraps up with the always well thought out throwing the villain into the sun. And it never comes back to haunt him, ever. And I'm pretty sure that's worked to this day. Oh, wait, no, he came back a few months later and is still in the Superman storylines currently. But yeah, just a really fun, I think, kind of overlooked, book. Again, I don't think it's ever been collected. I don't even know if it's available digitally or not, but it's, worth hunting through those back issues for.
Piecing it together. Probably not too expensive to put
together.
No,
it's
either.
not. And it's like, and there's still, George Perez was working on action at the time. Yeah. Dan Jurgens is in there. Jerry Ordway, really good artists. Just a really fun story. Like, this would be a great movie. It'd be super expensive because of all the characters in it and everything. But it's a really solid story, and I don't know why it doesn't have more esteem than it does.
Worthy of a trade, even.
For sure. And again, I just feel like there's some really good stories from that run that are really overlooked because of the high points of John Byrne's run and then the death of Superman a couple years later.
Right, it just kind of gets lost.
Yeah, people kind of forgotten the in-between there. So, but yeah, I've always liked that. I actually made a custom action figure of Superman in that Kryptonian suit from that storyline. And there was a JLA story later on by Mark Waid where the Justice League kind of lose their secret identities and Superman kind of reverts back to a similar suit to that in a Brian Hitch drone story.
Very cool.
So that's it for me.
All
that's
right.
kind of mine.
Did you want to go or you want me to go?
It doesn't matter. I can go or you can go.
All right.
So,
either one.
Okay, so Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. No. Sorry.
I've got the comic book adaptation. Okay, you can talk about that.
So for me, probably like the big Superman story is Superman the Man of Steel by John Byrne. I think this was just shortly after Crisis, if I remember correctly, where they're trying to, and it's actually been quite a while since I've read this story. So, but and I guess it's probably not a lot of it is in modern continuity for DC, but it's just I just felt like it's such an excellent story about Superman coming into his powers, coming into Metropolis. I thought John Byrne did an outstanding job of basically, kind of envisioning Superman for that time period. And there's just like a few little scenes that, kind of stand out to me from that. There's one scene where Lois Lane is in Clark's apartment, and Clark comes out of the bathroom, and Lois is there using his weights, and it's like, I can't believe you use these so light, and you're in as good a shape as you are. And like Clark's like, oh my gosh, I got to learn to adjust my, weights, and but it's like it's a different take. Clark's not the nerdy guy because he was the high school football star, et cetera, et cetera. So, there had some random weird powers, which tends to always happen in like some Superman thing where there's like at the end, like issue 5 or 6, somebody takes a picture of Superman and he's like able to detect light bouncing off of his face differently or something bizarre like that, which is, kind of dumb, really. But overall, for me, that story, it's a good updated origin story for Superman. Excellent writing, excellent artwork by John Byrne. I don't really have a whole lot more to say about it. I mean, there are other than that, but it's definitely something to check out, and it's pretty much always in print. I think able to be picked up. Yeah. So it's just one of those always available type of stories. So.
Okay.
Quick side note: I just actually saw this confirmed the other day online somewhere. Man of Steel #1 is also the first American superhero variant cover.
Oh, really?
By like a major publisher, because there are two covers for that. There's the standard Krypton exploding Superman to the side, and then there's the close up of him taking off the shirt with the S underneath.
Oh, interesting.
Yep.
Huh.
I didn't realize. I knew there were 2 covers for that, but I didn't realize that was the first.
First
one.
Variant,
Okay.
Very cool. Well, for my entry into this little journey, I've picked something a little bit, a Superman story that kind of isn't a Superman story. It wasn't written under the Elseworlds banner, but it was written by Kurt Busiek and illustrated by Stuart Eminem. In 2004, it's called Secret Superman, Secret Identity. And it's really an interesting read. It's kind of a different take on the whole thing. Really what the upshot of it is about about a family living in rural Kansas, not Smallville. I think it's like Pickettsville or something like that, some real homey sounding town. And a young couple named the Kents, I think like Dave and Laura or something like that. And they have a son, and as a joke, their world's like ours. Superheroes don't exist in their world except for in comic books. So as kind of a joke, they named their son Clark. So they got Clark Kent living in Kansas, and the Superman mythos that we know is their Superman mythos in their comics. So of course he's just constantly bullied and tormented and aggravated, inundated with Superman gifts from relatives. Every birthday gets something Superman, all this and all that, and he really doesn't care about it. He does not care about it at all, and it just is an annoyance in his life. And one of the things that that young Clark does kind of as escape is he goes to what he calls his fortress of solitude, which is basically a broken down tractor in the middle of a field, and he just goes out there just to kind of get away from all this. And then he'll go camping at night by himself, rural safe community out there. So one night while he's on one of his little camping forays, he wakes up in the middle of the night and he's actually floating in the sky. So he actually ends up, as he's gotten a little older and it develops more and more, this Clark Kent in this world without superheroes develops all of Superman's powers, and it's just the story of exploring that, how he adapts to that, how he kind of then tries to decide what he wants to do with this. Now that he can do this, he wants to use it to help people like Superman. But do I keep this secret? It's kind of like playing into that whole secret identity thing. Do I expose myself and let people know what I can do, including my parents, all this or that? Do I keep it down? So he kind of goes through various just different stages of what he does, and he pretty much decides to keep it more covert. And one time he exposes himself like I think it was like an explosion at like a county fair or something like that. And and then he decides, no, this was the wrong thing to do, because he starts attracting government attention, who start coming after him and all this and all that. So it's just kind of a different take on the whole Superman thing from like the perspective of what would happen if just a normal person, this happened to him,
right.
And all of a sudden they could do these things. How would you do? What would the morality of it be? Would you help people? Would you keep it to yourself? Would you lay low? And of course, once you do get exposed, government's going to come after you and all this and all that. So it's just an interesting take, a different take on that kind of thing, and about being Superman without really being Superman, and going on. And it goes to different, things like his friends as a joke set him up with this girl named Lois, right. But they ended up falling in love. That's who he marries and has his kids with, so it's just kind of a nice alternate little story, about the whole concept of Superman without really being Superman. So it's just kind of a nice self-contained little story. I think it was 4 issues, and it in their prestige format, so it was a little bit bigger issues, but there's always a trade of it available. And so yeah, I would highly recommend anybody checking it out. It's just a really fun, solid read. So that's my recommendation.
And they're followed that up now with the Batman Creature of the Night, right?
Yes.
It's coming out.
Yeah, there are 2 issues of that are out, and it's the same creative team. I know the character in that's like Bruce Wainwright or something like that, so I don't really know how they're going with that. I'm going to wait till all 4 issues are out and probably check that out. Okay. But yeah, it's kind of a sister piece to that. So that do it, gentlemen?
Yeah, we've talked about this AMC series before. Was it Robert Kirkman's Secret History of Comics? I think what it is. There's an episode of that talks about Siegel and Schuster and all of their legal issues that they had with DC. Regarding the ownership of the Superman character, which I don't know that it's popped in my mind right now. So if you have AMC, have access to that, it's something definitely worth watching. So we're gonna limit it to just like one or.
Yeah, I mean, we could always revisit this. It's the 80th anniversary all year long, so we could always come back and hit up some more.
Yeah, maybe we'll do it next time.
Did we want to talk about some news that's come out of DC?
Oh, yeah, we probably do want to just hit on that. You're talking about the Black Label stuff, apparently. DC has announced an imprint, another imprint of their brand called Black Label. And it's kind of an interesting concept. I guess I've got a little bit of mixed emotions about it, but mostly I think I'm looking forward to it. Well, I guess it's all going to be in the execution. I think it could potentially be good. It could potentially kind of be a train wreck, but but I'm looking forward to reading some of it. And really what it is, Dan, you want to get into that?
Yeah, so it looks like DC is creating an imprint for some of their I guess you'd call them top talent. It's definitely sort of the bigger names, the more successful creators of the company are sort of given free reign, it looks like, over some different projects. It seems like some of this is coming out in the wake of Sean Murphy's Batman White Knight, where they are sort of out of continuity stories, not necessarily like Elseworlds like we used to have, where it's still basically like this is obviously Batman, this is Superman, but just out of continuity, letting the creators have a little more free reign with them as far as what the stories are. Mm-hmm. And it turns out this is what Scott Snyder has been referring to as far as continuing his All-Star Batman run, because he's teaming up with Greg Capullo again now to kind of do that story. And it sounds like it's almost like a Mad Max dystopian Batman story, which was previewed in an issue a couple years ago. Mm-hmm. We've got Superman Year One from Frank Miller and John Romita Jr.
Right. And I'm not sure, does Frank Miller ever need to write Superman to you? Do you think that...
I'm looking forward to this because he said that this is kind of the story he wants to do.
Okay.
Again, we'll see what that amounts to when it actually comes out. Mm-hmm. I feel like on some level he has to have a soft spot for this character.
Right.
Yeah. Maybe this is, maybe not looking at Superman through the lens of Batman would
like
be
Dark Knight.
Better take for
That's
him.
True. Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Because he used Superman very effectively, I thought, in the Dark Knight series. So I think he understands the character.
Okay.
So.
Yeah. But yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying. But yeah, I think this will be kind of a different take on him.
Well, I certainly hope so.
There's a Wonder Woman book. I can't think of the writer offhand, but I know Phil Jimenez is drawing it.
Yeah, is that the Kelly Sue DeConnick? Is
I
that
think
that
so.
one or the other one?
And then there's another one called, I think, Diana's Daughter or something that they've kind of floated out there.
The Kelly Sue DeConnick book, I think it's more of a history of the Amazons.
Yeah, something like that. I think that's what it is.
Before Wonder Woman happened, it's like how the Amazons came to be. And I think, from what I've heard, it's kind of an interesting thing I've never seen before. I think that series is supposed to culminate with Steve Trevor crashing on the island.
Okay, that'd be a cool way of
so it's
tying
like
that in.
it just kind of leads up to that moment.
Probably if you're a fan of the Wonder Woman movie, too, this might be something to pick up, kind of thing. I know they're also doing, they called it the Other History of the DC Universe, which sounds like it's sort of the DC Universe through the lens of maybe minorities or disenfranchised characters.
Yeah, that's the way I took
through that. I know there's some other big ones I'm forgetting now that we're trying to run through the list.
Who's writing the one that Bermeo's drawn?
That's Brian Azzarello.
Azzarello,
it's them back together. They did the Batman Death Blow and the Lex Luthor Man of Steel, which has just been rebranded Luthor for the trades now, and then the Joker special from a few years ago. So yeah, I'm definitely picking that up. I'm sure that'll be a good story.
Yeah. So again, we're not changing these characters necessarily or getting alternate versions. They're just giving him free reign, and Miller's like, I guess he's going to shake up the origin of Superman a little bit, but I don't know. It just remains. It'll be interesting. He
did a good job with Batman.
Yeah, that's true.
Batman Year One is still a great story.
Oh yeah, it's amazing.
Is like a bestseller for DC.
Yeah, I really like that story.
I mean, honestly, I don't expect this to live up to the bar that set.
Sure.
But what if it does?
But I really would. I really would like Frank Miller to write something good. You know what I mean? I really think he needs a win. You know what I mean? That's something really solid.
I'd liked DK3. I don't know about everybody else, but
it's definitely better than DK2. I'll tell you that. Right, for sure. Yeah, no, I liked it. But again, and Miller kept deferring to Azzarello on that, and I don't know if that was just being polite or how much of that was Azzarello's baby. And that. But I've heard him talking about this as kind of what led to him working on this Superman project. Okay. And he has said since he wants another Dark Knight project. Miller said he wants to do a fourth. I would assume that would come out under this label. I don't know why you wouldn't at this point.
Right. It's out there.
I do have some apprehension about this line. All-Star Batman and Robin the Boy Wonder by Frank Miller and Jim Lee is kind of the big one.
Yeah, it's rough.
This is what happens when you let creators run roughshod over your characters, and they never even finish that book.
Right.
You know, after multiple times they said they would go back and finish it, and they never have.
One thing I'm a little bit confused on, I mean, I assume this is going to be done in their traditional. Is it going to be issues, or is this going to be a series of original graphic novels?
That was the other thing, too. Scott Snyder, when he was talking about this back with All-Star Batman, was saying it was going to be an innovative, brand new thing. What does that mean in 2018?
That means they will not be $2.99 covers.
That's a given.
Yeah.
But, like, we've seen a lot of formats. You know, you can't just throw out hyperbole like that. Yeah. It's like, what does that mean? It means a hardcover graphic novel. We've seen that for 30 years.
Right.
You know what I mean? What is new and innovative about this? Is there a digital aspect to this? Is there, you know, some sort of interactive component to this?
QR codes.
Yeah, is it QR codes? You know, I mean, Marvel had that Marvel AR for a few years. You know, I don't know if you've mentioned this on here before, but side note, that program's been discontinued. But all those videos are up on YouTube. If you have an issue and you want to see something, you can look it up that way.
Huh.
But yeah, it's like, if you're throwing around that this is a new format and innovative, I'm expecting something big.
Right.
Don't just give me a hardcover.
Yeah.
You know, and I would assume...
Or just an odd-shaped book or something.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's
they're
just
all
like,
round.
Yeah.
You know, what... I mean, especially with the gimmick covers of the 90s, what do you got to do that hasn't been done before? You know, are they all going to be fold-out vertical covers?
Right, yeah.
You know?
Well, that's been done before.
Yeah.
Pop-up books.
Yeah, pop-up comics.
Pop-up comics.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. I feel like that's big talk that they're not going to back up, but we'll see. You know, maybe it will be.
Right.
But yeah, they've been kind of vague on the format of these things.
Yeah.
The comic book format, it's in the format it is in for a reason, because it's convenient for reading. So
it's convenient for retailers too. You hear stories of, you know, books that are odd formats being low ordered because people can't put them out.
Yeah. How do you put that, you know, like even an oversized hardcover like Frank Miller's 300, how do you put that on a shelf with your other books?
Right.
You know?
All those widescreen books that stick out 3 inches off the shelf because they're just too tall, you know?
Yeah.
Yep. So,
and that's not to say there's not artistic merit to that.
Sure.
There is, but again, you know, comics are a business, for better or worse. It's definitely a double-edged sword.
right.
But
Man, it does
You
keep
know.
people from. I mean,
Yeah.
you as a collector, doesn't the odd size of a book put you off from buying something sometimes, or not really?
I don't think it would be the deciding factor, because I have bought books that were odd size, but then it is a pain where, like, okay, where do I put this?
Yeah.
As I've found out over the last couple of years, they don't make boxes for treasury-sized comics, which have been around since, what, the 70s?
Right.
There's
Yep.
no good way of doing that.
I've got this
You
one
know.
shelf that is just all these odd-shaped books that are
Yeah.
stuck in all these different
Yeah,
angles.
and it's a bookshelf. It's
Yeah.
not a long box.
No,
or
yeah,
something,
exactly.
Right? Like
Yeah.
the rest of your books.
Right. So yeah, that'll be interesting, and it's interesting in many levels to see, you know, what this innovation is and what these stories are going to
Yeah.
be. I mean,
Hopefully-
Alleged innovation.
Again,
Alleged
Hopefully,
innovation.
yeah, there you go.
hopefully, what these stories are finished before they're solicited.
Yes, for sure.
I don't want 8-month gaps in between these books, which is what you'll see on
7-year gaps.
Yeah, exactly. From bigger creators like this, you know.
Right.
Frank Miller's Dark Knight 3, you know, it was still late like the other two series
Yes.
were. You know, hopefully these are figured out beforehand. I've been seeing online on, I believe, Twitter with Sean Murphy mentioning that, hey, you know, there's basically going to be a sequel to his White Knight run.
Okay.
Maybe it will be through this now. It
Right.
definitely seems like it would fit into this format, you know, of this line, you know, kind of the tone of this imprint. So I would be surprised if it isn't. And I would imagine that at some point the trade of the first series gets remarked as being part of that
Part
label.
of that. Yeah, I could see that. I mean, the concept of this whole, you know, innovation, whatever it is, aside, you know, is kind of in my wheelhouse because, I mean, I understand continuity, but, you know, you're
Right.
talking about characters that have been around for 80 years. How do you
Right.
how do you do that? And I've always said, just tell me good stories
Stories.
about characters I like.
Right.
without having to worry about that couldn't happen because in issue 693,
Right.
blah, 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 thus and so. I don't want to have to worry about all that. So this really appeals to me in that way. We'll just see what the execution
Yeah,
actually
because right
is.
now it looks like you could tell someone, you want a good Batman story? Read this. There you go. This is all you need. Hopefully that's what they'll be.
Yes, that would be
when they come out.
terrific.
Or I really liked Wonder Woman. I want to read more about the Amazons. There you go.
There you go. Yeah, because you get people coming in that aren't really comic book people. It's just like,
Right.
I want to read Batman. Where should I start? How do you answer that? You know what I mean? It's just like
Batman Year One.
yeah.
Yeah. Again, this is something that happened a while back, so I don't know if I've mentioned it on here before. I had someone reach out to me online, and I didn't really know this person, but they were like, "Hey, I want to read all the Marvel 616 stuff. Where do I start?"
Whoa.
They knew what Marvel 616 even meant, huh?
Yeah, that's the thing. They did list it like that, but I'm like, well, I don't want to say this in a brick and mortar store, but it starts with a Marvel Unlimited subscription because you're going to be shelling out the money for this stuff. And I'm like, it starts with Fantastic Four number one.
Yeah.
If you really want to read this, and it's just like, that's a hefty
that's a checklist.
undertaking. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot. So you bring that up. Has Marvel ever actually embraced the 616 as being their thing? Because wasn't that mostly kind of like a fan?
Yeah, no, they've
thing?
definitely kind of
Okay.
used that designation
Right.
for the universe.
Okay,
I don't know if it's still valid or not,
right.
but
Who knows with all their
Yeah.
changes?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, it makes
And
sense.
they're kind of sliding timeline. I don't know why it wouldn't be necessarily, but I can't say for sure.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Well, anything else, guys? We want to wrap this one up.
I'm good.
Well, we hope you.
I think we're good.
Okay. Well, I hope you enjoyed this little bonus episode that we just freestyled here. I guess
Yeah. If you don't
through.
like it, come in the store. We'll gladly give you your money back.
There you go. We'll refund your money gladly. And also, if there's anything that you would like to hear us talk about, reach out to us on our outlets that we'll give you here in a little bit, ways to get a hold of us. If there's anything you'd like to hear about or you would like to hear discussed, of course, even as the owner of this business, the main thing I want to do is to be serving the purpose that you want us. What do you want of it? What would you like to see of us as a comic shop? We're trying to do some more things. Right now our back room's out of commission. So we can't really do those things. But Dan and I have kicked around the idea of starting a book club where we'd everybody read a graphic novel, and we get together at a set time to discuss things. We've talked about doing different kind of things within the store. And so any ideas that you have that you would like to see us kind of explore, just send them to us, talk to us about them, and we'll consider the possibility of it. It's I just want to voice my appreciation for everybody that does come into the store and shop locally here. It's so easy to buy this stuff online. I'm aware of that. I'm not totally blind to that. So just the fact that everybody does come in and support us, I just really like to give a personal thank you for doing that, and ask you to continue to do so, and let us know again if there's anything else you'd like to see us do or offer. So with that, we'll just go ahead and wrap this one up. And again, I'm Mike No here at Campus Comics. We're here at 816B East Main Street in Carbondale. Phone number 618-457-6011. Just like our page on Facebook. Trying to think if there's anything else, but that's how you get a hold of me and send us those suggestions, like I said.
Scott Reed, you can find me at bergcomics.com, B-U-R-G. Also find me on Facebook, searching for Berg Comics. I try to get back to messages, so shoot me an email from the website or leave me a message on the Facebook page.
Dan Brown, if you want to find me online, it's at Detective651 on Twitter, WordPress, and DeviantArt. Like Mike was saying, if there's any suggestions you have, you can also come into the store too, and Mike can always order stuff.
Yes, I can.
Feel free to ask. If we can get it, he'll get it.
There's so much stuff out there you can't. Diamond has something you can't have it all here, but we can get it for you. And turnaround time is quick.
Yeah.
I place orders on Monday. If I place an order on Monday, I can have it here on Wednesday. So it's not like you're going to be waiting forever. So
yeah, I just also want to personally thank our listener for sticking with us all this time too.
Yeah. But yeah, so all right. Well, I guess that'll do it for this extra episode of the Campus Comics Cast, and just thanks for listening.